LinkedIn is about to fundamentally change in 2026, so what might have worked for you this year might actually make you invisible to the platform next year. So in this video, I am going to go through the 4-part framework that I am using with my clients to cut through the noise, attract premium leads, and actually build authority for their specific industry. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to do to position yourself ahead of this massive shift that's coming. So my name is Martin Ushun, and I've been working with founders and executives of some of the biggest startups in the world to help them build their personal brands. And not only that, but their company brands as well. And by doing that, we've generated them deals, brand recognitions, and relationships with key people in their market to the point where they are getting invited to different speaking events, podcasts, and a whole bunch of authority building spaces. I've personally written and distributed about 1,000+ pieces of content, of which some have gone completely viral and others have just flopped. So that has allowed me to actually have an insight to see what exactly is working and what isn't. So in this video, I want to touch on the 4 principles that will actually make a difference when it comes to your LinkedIn in 2026. So principle number 1 is that quality is more important than quantity. In 2025 alone, data has shown that LinkedIn has been gaining an average of about 5 to 7 million new users every single month. And about 1% of those people actually go on to create content. Now, the thing is with this is that the bar for creating content is very low. Thanks to stuff like AI, it's never been easier to create a piece of content in, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes. Now with that, the issue doesn't become who can post the most amount of content, but it actually comes down to whose content has the highest quality. Now, I know you've probably heard the advice of post every day and make sure that you are getting as many posts out there as possible. Now, yes, of course, if you're new to the platform, you kind of just want to get a feel of what works and what doesn't. I would recommend that you do post consistently and that volume be, one of your top priorities. But it comes to a point where you have some good data on what works for your audience and what doesn't. And at that point, you now want to substitute quantity for quality. So instead of trying to post consistently 5 to 6 days a week, you are actually much better off taking about 45 minutes to an hour of your time per week to actually create high value pieces of content whereby you actively research different things, where you work on different hooks, the writing structure, and just how things look and feel. So when you actually take the time out to actually produce high value pieces of content, it signals to the audience that one, you're an expert in the specific field that you're talking about. And secondly, they can actually trust you that whatever pieces of advice you are giving them, they can trust to help them achieve whatever desired outcome that they want. So in 2026, the advice of post every day and get as much volume out there as possible might actually end up hurting your brand more than it is building it. And so this is actually something that we've done internally at our company, whereby we've downsized the amount of times that we're posting with our clients. So clients who used to post around 5 to 6 times a week are now comfortably posting 3 to 4 times a week, and they're seeing higher engagement numbers with their audience. And if you can't take my word for it, you can look at some of the biggest industry players on LinkedIn, such as Gal Aga, Adam Robinson, and Aaron Levy. These are all different founders of different products who are actively posting on LinkedIn or use LinkedIn as one of their main channels of acquisition. What you'll see is they're not posting 5 to 6 times a week. So that should signal something to you. So now the question becomes, what does quality content even look like? And that brings us to principle number 2. The best content on LinkedIn is one that is going to prioritize depth over shallowness. So here's the thing, you've probably seen it and you're well aware of it. General how-to content does not perform too well. People are now valuing the depth of content a lot more. Now, when it comes to creating quality content that actually has depth, you want to think about it in 4 different traits. Trait number 1 being a new insight or a fresh perspective. You are actively introducing a new concept that people have never heard of before, or you're taking an existing concept but actually putting a spin on it by approaching it from a different angle. So now let us take an example from Jake Ward, who actually runs an SEO agency. So Jake is introducing a new insight known as Answer Engine Optimization, which is known as AEO. This new concept or insight is new to the world of SEO. So what Jake did, he actually brought about a new insight by seeing which platform do the AIs leverage the most when they are answering questions for people, right? And so he is bringing a new insight to the platform, which is why his piece of content did so well, because it is something that people have been wondering about. They have had different questions, and he was able to bring in insight that was able to actually answer all these questions. So when it comes to creating quality content that has depth, a very important trait you want to consider is whether or not you're actually producing a new insight or a fresh perspective. That actually brings us to trait number 2, which is that quality content is very specific. So being vague on LinkedIn actually gets you nowhere. And that is because people are tired of very general content that they can get from a Google search. What you want to do is you want to get very specific on whatever it is that you're talking about. So let's take this example. Let's say that you're an agency and you work with a lot of B2B companies and you help them scale their brands on LinkedIn. Now, instead of saying, I've worked with a lot of brands working on their LinkedIn and here are the results I've gotten for them, you want to say something like, I've worked with 24 B2B companies, helping them scale their brands on LinkedIn, and I've generated 3.6 million in pipeline. Here's exactly how. Do you see the difference between the two? One is so general to the point where somebody can just get those types of results from a Google search. And the second one is so specific that they can't get that type of content anywhere else. And the reason why this type of content actually works so well is actually psychological. So in psychology, there's something known as a specificity heuristic. Now, a heuristic is basically just a mental shortcut that we take as humans to help us make decisions a lot quicker. So a specificity heuristic is actually a mental shortcut that we take in the sense that we trust somebody or we think somebody's an authority based on how specific they are about a piece of information, which is why you'll see some of the top creators on the platform are very specific about different results, percentages, and values, especially when it comes to their hooks. So you actually want to use this psychological advantage so that you can get better results with your content in 2026. Now, trait number 3 is that quality content always uses personal experience that has uniquely happened to you. So a lot of people on LinkedIn forget the personal aspect of a personal brand. So you always want to be making sure that you are always involving your unique experiences and baking that into whatever it is that you're posting about. Because the thing is that that unique experience has never happened to anyone else. So therefore, a lot more people can learn from you than you trying to just be general and give general advice, right? Now, trait number 4 is that quality content in 2026 needs to have a strong point of view. You need to have an opinion about something, even if some people disagree with you on it, right? Because if everybody is nodding along with you, then that might be a sign that you're playing it too safe. Now, the entire reason why you actually want to have a strong point of view is that points of view actually get conversations started. So if you have a strong stance on something and it is something that you firmly believe, now, we're not saying that you want to start fabricating, points of view or anything, but if it is something that you firmly believe within your hearts of hearts and you believe that the world should know about it, then you want to inject this into the content that you are producing, right? And so that you can get conversations started with people that might agree with you and people who disagree with you, right? And the great thing is you are able to hear from both sides about what it is that they think about, right? And so in 2026, a lot more of your content needs to have a stronger point of view if it is going to survive on the platform. Now, those were the 4 traits of depth when it comes to creating quality content that is not shallow. Now, you can be posting the best pieces of content with the highest quality, but if nobody's actively seeing those, then all your efforts are in vain, which actually takes us to principle number 3. And that is that comments are the best way to grow. Here's something that a lot of people don't actually know. And that is that your comments are more valuable than whatever pieces of content that you're posting. Now, let me explain that. When you're commenting on somebody's post, what you're doing is you are actually borrowing their audience's attention, right? By continuing the conversation within the comments. Now, I actually want to drive this point even further by showing you an example of a comment that I left on a somewhat viral post, right? This comment got 13,000 impressions. And if only 1% of those people actually end up even clicking on to see my profile, that is 140 people that are coming to see what it is that I have to further say, all from one comment. I hope you're seeing the value in this. And there's a reason why LinkedIn actually added that feature when it comes to the showing the impressions on your comment. It is because they want you to be commenting more and they understand just how valuable comments are to their overall platform. So in 2026, commenting is going to be a hidden growth lever that only a few people who actually understand it are going to take advantage of it. Now, here's the problem that we've ran into, especially in 2025, and that is that people want to leverage AI to start commenting on different posts. So, yes, now you understand that comments are valuable. You're starting to see the fruits of that. But some people want to automate it to the point where they start introducing different AI tools and platforms to help them comment on as many posts as possible. Let me be the one to tell you this: it doesn't work. One, people on LinkedIn absolutely hate AI comments. And it's very easy to tell because it just doesn't contribute anything of value to the conversation that was started in the post, right? So, what you want to do is instead, you want to take out 15 to 20 minutes of your day every single day to actually comment on people's posts you think you can bring value to. Now, there's a specific strategy behind this, right? And so when it comes to commenting, you want to be commenting on three different types of people. One would be your ideal customer profile. Let's say that a specific person at a company you're targeting is quite active on LinkedIn. You want to start getting them to notice you by leaving comments that add value to their overall posts. So that's the first type of person. The second type of person are going to be some of the big industry players that your ICP and people in your industry follow. So you can think of these as the influencers in your industry, right? And so that is because that they already control most of the narratives, most of the conversations that people are having. And so you want to bring yourself into that whole mix by leaving comments that actually add value to the entire conversation, right? Now, the third type of person you want to be making sure you're commenting on is your different peers and mutuals. This could be people in your industry who maybe are not direct competitors to your company or brand. And the good thing about having mutuals and different people like that is that once they see that you're actively commenting and contributing to your stuff, they're more incentivized to do the same for you as well. So in 2026, commenting is going to be a necessity so that your high quality content can actually be actively seen by as many people as possible. Now that you're commenting on different posts and people are actively seeing the content you're producing, it is very important that you create content in the right frameworks and strategy. Let me present a scenario you've probably seen yourself. So on Monday, somebody posts a motivational quote that they ran into. On Tuesday, they post about some random industry topic. On Wednesday, they're posting about a family event that they went to. On Thursday, they're posting about a random product event that they had. So, as you can see, this is untailored, unstructured, and a very, very messy way of actually producing content, which is why internally we use something known as the 70-20-10 content distribution method, which basically says that 70% of the content you'll be producing will be in relation to your industry and speaking to your ICP. 20% will be mainly focused on bringing new people into your funnel. So this is going to be very general, broad content. And only 10% of your content is actually going to speak about the different products and services that you have to offer to your ICP. So you can kind of think of this as a content pie that has been strategically distributed to allow you to get the most desired result from the LinkedIn platform. Now, when it comes to your 70%, at this stage of the funnel, the content you are going to be producing is centered around the problem, pains, and desires of your ICP when it comes to things that are related to your solution. And the 20%, you can call this top of funnel. This is your awareness content. So this is where you go a lot broader from the content you're creating for your ICP. And now you are creating it for a much larger audience. So that means that the different topics you speak about are still going to be in relation to your industry, but a lot more general. And then the 10%, which is your product or service content, this is where you are actively going to promote the different things that comes with your product, right? So features, benefits, new launches, different things. And so we only want to make sure that it is only about 10% of this because we don't want to overwhelm people with just constantly speaking about what it is that we have to sell. I hope you're seeing how all of this is very strategic and will actually allow us to start seeing success with LinkedIn. So that was the 2026 LinkedIn strategy. And I believe that if you started implementing some of these things already, you are going to be massively ahead of any of your competition before the year even begins. So I've laid it all on the floor. You now have everything that you need to completely dominate whatever industry and whatever niche it is that you serve. So my only advice is that you do this consistently and you do this to the best of your capabilities. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.